And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the channel. And guys, there's a lot going on right now. There really is when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. First of all, the Jaguars are 4-3 at the bye week. We've had some incredible highs, beating Kansas City on Monday Night Football, going 4-1, and some lows. Those lows, especially being the last 2 weeks where the Jaguars have played their worst football. Now the Jaguars are sitting at the bye week, and one thing we know about this team: brand new regime. What do new regimes like to do? They like to flip over the roster. That's what new regimes like to do, and we've seen James Gladstone be extremely active from the time he took the job when it comes to, you realize that when the Jaguars in free agency, when the Jaguars had their unrestricted free agents, they didn't re-sign any of them. They cut bait with a lot of contracts, cut Evan Ingram, traded Christian Kirk, did a lot of that stuff. And then even post draft, went and got Dwan Smoot, Ogba, stuff like that. And then when you actually look during the season, during preseason, you trade away Luke Fortner. You also trade away Tank Bigsby. You trade for Tim Patrick. Even a couple weeks ago, you traded Tyson Campbell for Greg Newsome. So there's been a lot of movement when it comes to the activity going on that on the Jaguars roster. And today we got to talk about a tweet. Of course, the trade deadline is on November 4th. Okay, it's on November 4th. So if we go to here, we can see Diana Rossini. Where is she? Where is she? An ESPN senior insider for The Athletic and New York Times. So 384,000 followers. I mean, she's hit and she's missed, but she puts out this tweet: the Jaguars are listening on calls for wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. Even if a move feels highly unlikely, they're also shopping for defense. So mixed feelings about this one. Very mixed feelings. Of course, Brian Thomas Jr. this year has been, quite frankly, awful. He's been a liability, and it's been really disappointing. Now, another guy who's been very disappointing is Trevor Lawrence, but I think there are two different types of disappointing. I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy that is working his ass off. He tries his best, but just he isn't playing good enough, and it's just the circumstance that he's not doing very good in right now. I feel like Brian Thomas Jr. isn't doing well because of effort, and that drives me absolutely insane. I can understand if you're not playing great football because you are trying really hard and it's just not working out, but Brian Thomas Jr.'s effort just hasn't been there, and we've seen all the drops. We've seen the body language, and he's been given these wide receiver one opportunities, and he is literally dropping it. I mean, quite literally, he's dropping the opportunity. And it's interesting because, I go on, like, Jimmy Smith is a guy that's been very active on Twitter, talking, just being very loud about being extremely disappointed in him, in Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, he takes a couple screenshots here. Me and Keenan McCardell would blow past the entire secondary if they played us like that. Get those stances down and apply pressure on the defense, period. And 1010XL put out a video yesterday, and I don't watch or listen to a lot of 1010XL, but I do love when they have really good guests on. And he had a really good interview yesterday on Jaguars Today, just talking about he's very frustrated with Brian Thomas Jr. And he says it all starts from the stance. Essentially, he's doomed from the very start. He says his stance is bad. He's not squared up. He's not quick off of the line of scrimmage, and that hurts him a lot. That quite frankly really hurts him a lot. So would I want to trade Brian Thomas Jr.? I don't know. Like, I would. This is something that only people in the building really know, because if he is locked in and if he wants to get better and if he is buying into everything, then I would absolutely not trade him. The upside and the ceiling is unreal with him, and that's one reason why I wanted to get him. But right now, it's just not there. And is it something that, like, if you were to interview Brian Thomas Jr., which this is what we don't have access to, what is he like in the building? Is he just moping around now? Is he just like, oh, well, it's everybody else's fault but me? Then you have to have the conversation, and I don't like these cliches, but is he intangibly rich? That's the thing that got going on with the Jaguars. Is he intangibly rich? I don't know. And I don't like to. This is one line I don't cross as a YouTuber. I don't like to sit here and judge people on their character when I don't know them. I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't care. Oh, Brian Thomas Jr. has depression issues. He needs to work out. I don't want to be that guy. But it is a question of is he locked in right now? Like, is there something going on mentally? Can he overcome this? What's going on in the bye week? Is he focused? Is he trying to learn the offense? Is he fixing the stance? Is all that going on? And then, and if not, then you may have to have a conversation. You may really have to have a conversation. And I like this tweet from, I don't know who this guy is, Charles Chill FFB. I just saw this on the timeline. Regarding BTJ, with the value of wide receiver across the NFL, you don't trade an alpha who did what he did last year on the front end of a rookie contract unless there are major red flags. Seems like there is much more going on that the Jags won't tolerate because shopping him is extreme. And this is kind of where I am because, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. as a player and the skill set that he brings to the table, no, I don't want to trade him. I don't want to trade that. This is exactly what the Jaguars need. If the Jaguars trade Brian Thomas Jr., they're immediately opening up a hole. But if, and especially right now with, like he said, he's on a front end of rookie contract. Like you've got him for 3 more years, very, very cheap. But it is to be said that right now with Brian Thomas Jr. on the field, he's been a liability. And he had drop problems throughout the preseason. They bled into the regular season. He may have a couple of games. I mean, I thought the Texans game, he caught the ball in like a game winner. The Chiefs game, he was pretty good. But the last couple of games, falling off back to his same stuff. And I just don't know if this is something that he can work out of. Now, one thing I'm intrigued by, I don't know if I'd sit here and want to trade it. Like, what's his trade value at right now? Like, you're kind of trading him at a moment where his value is a little bit low. I don't think you'd get a first-round pick. I think you'd be lucky to get a second-round pick, but maybe a third or fourth-round pick is more like it. And I'm not trading him for a third or fourth-round pick. One thing that is intriguing, if we go back to Diana Rossini, saying they're also shopping for defense, I think it's well known that the Jaguars are looking for defensive line help, especially interior defensive line, especially something to help them really generate some pass rush. So if it's not a draft pick, what about player for player? The Jaguars have done that. I mean, twice. Luke Fortner for Colin Saunders a couple weeks ago. Tyson Campbell for Greg Newsome. I mean, trading him for a second-round pick right now doesn't help you right now. I think they want to trade something that may put them in contention. How about this one? I saw this one yesterday. Jets All-Pro, which I don't know, Football Forever. Is this? Yeah, I don't know. This is the most. Oh, this is via Connor Hughes, so through him. Jets All-Pro defensive tackle Quinn Williams could be traded before November 4th trade deadline, and the asking price is believed to be a second-round pick. Quote, there are rumblings around there that Quinn Williams is unhappy. That's a perception around the league via Connor Hughes. And yeah, Jets are awful right now. They are the only winless team in the NFL right now. You have a feeling they're gonna pretty much dump a lot of their roster, and Quinn Williams might be one of those guys. Quinn Williams might just be one of those guys. So would you trade Brian Thomas Jr. for Quinn Williams straight up? Now that's intriguing. That's intriguing. Now there are extra things that go into this because Quinn Williams has a big contract. Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't. So, and also when you look at the Jets really need a wide receiver outside of Garrett Wilson. They're awful behind him. But also, like, what are the Jets? Are the Jets in a position where I don't know what and it's so hard to predict trades, especially player for player trades. Like, I don't know if I trade, like, if it's a first round pick, then maybe I'm down to trade Brian Thomas Jr. Second round pick, probably not, to be honest with you. Probably not. I would just rather, I'd rather ride him out, see how he does. But man, one thing that the Jaguars did this offseason was they wanted to bring in players who just love the game of football. That's what it did this offseason when it comes to free agency. They didn't spend a lot of money on guys, but they just brought in a bunch of dudes that really like football. And it appears to have worked out pretty well. Does Brian Thomas Jr. love football? Once again, I'm not going to judge somebody's character. But that's a really good question to have, quite frankly. It's a really good question to have. So, yeah, that's what that is. Real quick, before I get to some comments, I want to give a shout out to Sleeper. Sleeper, guys, it's going to essentially get you a, let's go ahead and sleep this over here. There we go. So if you guys use promo code UCFJAG, it's going to get you a free $20 entry. The Jaguars don't play tomorrow. So what's going to make tomorrow a little bit more interesting? Why don't you put some player pick'ems in on different games around the league? Colts play the Titans, so you can put some picks on that, basically go higher and lower on different player stats. Or you can, I mean, look, you can use Sleeper for all different types of leagues out there. NBA just started. So, yeah, if you guys use promo code UCFJAG, that'll first of all get you a $20 free entry, but also get you a 100% deposit match up to $100. Let's use promo code UCFJAG. Sleeper is the sponsor of this channel, and we really appreciate him, Sleeper, for being the sponsor of this channel. So let's take a look at, I know Big Jags fan threw in a $2 donation. Trade that big dropper for AJ Brown. I'll take it. Would be intriguing. And like I said, I don't know who put out where this information comes from. It very well could have been from James Gladstone just saying, "Hey, put this out there." Like, I don't know if teams are actively calling the Jaguars about Brian Thomas Jr., but sometimes GMs put in these little things to say, "Hey, kind of make this public, put this out there." And sometimes they want to keep it under the vest, like when the Jaguars, made the trade for Travis Hunter. Then it didn't really come out until that day, even though that trade had been worked out for like weeks. But maybe with this one, they said, "Hey, we want to put something out there just so teams will call us. Like, we don't want to go shop around, look for other teams. Like, maybe, like, for example, like they might say, they may call the Jets, say, "Hey, would you be interested in this?" But what if there's a dark horse team out there like we're not thinking about? Like, what if like the Cowboys, for example, would, like, a random team like that doesn't appear that they would need wide receiver help? They already have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. What if a team like that says, "Hey, Brian Thomas Jr. is available. Let's give him a call. Maybe we can get something for him." Just for example, something like that. So I don't know. I would probably lean that the Jaguars would not trade Brian Thomas Jr. just because the return that you would get for him, I don't think would match the potential. But the only reason they would trade him maybe is just to say, "Hey, this guy right now in this locker room is a net negative. We're trying to go to the next step. We're trying to make it into the playoffs this year." I don't know. It's certainly extremely disappointing the year that Brian Thomas Jr. has had. He's been given opportunities and just dropped them. And I'm just hopeful that his mindset is right and he wants to change, and he really wants this for himself, because guess what? I know some people say, "Oh, he just doesn't like, or he doesn't trust Trevor Lawrence." Well, boo-hoo. Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback. He's on a big contract. You're stuck with him. And I can understand the whole thing where it's like, if Trevor Lawrence throws the ball 5 yards away and it's a weird place ball, you drop it. I can understand that. But when people say he throws an uncatchable ball, but Trevor Lawrence throws it 15 yards downfield and it hits you in the hands, I don't subscribe to that. You got to make the catch. Ball hits you on the hands downfield, you make the catch. So I don't know. Like Larry says, what if he doesn't like Trevor? Well, boo-hoo. Get over it. Trevor's the quarterback. Are you gonna sabotage your own career because you don't like the quarterback? I don't know. I think it's weird. Like, have you guys ever disliked a boss? You guys may dislike a boss, but you still work the job because you need the paycheck. So does he like Trevor Lawrence to the point where if he's 20 yards downfield and the ball hits him in the hands, he's gonna say, "You know what? I don't like Trevor Lawrence. Bat it away." He's only making himself look bad. Only making himself look bad. Little Big Man says BTJ heads Trevor. So like I said, is that good reason for him just to drop the ball? I don't know. And I can understand. Look, I don't want to sit here and I'm kind of done defending Trevor Lawrence in a lot of senses. He hasn't been good enough to the Jaguars, but He's a Jaguars quarterback. So he's a Jaguars quarterback right now. So I'm going to try to get behind him. And Brian Thomas Jr., he's a Jaguars receiver. He wears the Jaguar on his helmet, the Jaguar on his front chest. I'm a BTJ fan until he's off the team, essentially. And I hope he works himself out of it because he's a hell of a receiver. But right now, he's his own worst enemy. He's his own worst enemy right now. I'm hoping that he can clean his stuff up and he can become the next big thing. BTJ doesn't give off ego at all. But for me, I would like him to maybe have a little bit of ego because I remember on Club Jaguar, they said it, oh, wide receivers have egos. They're divas. Well, you know what a diva wide receiver looks like to me? They go and yell at the quarterback because they want the ball more, right? Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't do that. He's so passive. He's so quiet. I don't know. Son says, I'm not out on BTJ. I believe in him. Good ceiling. That's kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Little big man, BTJ lack of effort is contagious. It is. And I know Jimmy Smith, when he listened on 1010 Excel, I really recommend you guys go listen to that because it's some really good insight. But he's like, Brian Thomas Jr. is a beast. Give it to Brian Thomas Jr. He's there. Or not Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter. Give it to Travis Hunter. He's out there running the right routes. His get off the line of scrimmage is good. Make him that dude. Not Brian Thomas Jr. I think Jimmy Smith, his word really means a lot because it's one thing if Cecil Shorts comes on there because I respect Cecil Shorts a lot. If he has insight on all that, I'm going to listen. But Jimmy Smith has created the standard for Jaguars wide receivers. You know, he's been off the team for 20 years and we haven't come close to getting a Jimmy Smith. You know, he may not be an expert in a lot of areas. Like he may not come over here and maybe become the best wide receiver coach or become the best offensive coordinator. But I think he's a guy that can look at a receiver and tell you what he's doing right or wrong, right? I really think so. Jordan says, attitude is huge. Remember the interview after week 1 or 2 where he didn't engage with the media at all? Attitude is terrible. And yeah, that's the thing. Like, I like his ceiling, but is him being out there a net negative? Because so far, him on the field has been a liability. It's been a net negative. When he gets these third down opportunities and we throw to him and he drops it, like defensively, if you're a cornerback and you allow a first down to go on you, guess what? You get to stay out there on a new set of downs and redeem yourself. On offense, if you drop the ball on third down, you're punting. Not good enough. Not good enough. If Jimmy don't like him, then I'm for trading him. Yeah, I really, like, after this live stream is over, I really challenge you guys to go listen to the 1010 Excel Jaguars video with Jimmy Smith on it. It's incredible insight. And, you know, he basically said, like, asked him about Trevor Lawrence. He says, I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence because a lot of this stuff is timing, and he's not getting out the line of scrimmage quick enough. Because he said there's something called the honey hole, which is what's interesting. He said Mark Brunell knew exactly where I was going to be at a certain time. And it's all timing. Like, you're supposed to throw to a spot, and a wide receiver is supposed to get to that spot. And a lot of times that's why it looks like Trevor Lawrence overthrows Brian Thomas Jr. because he's supposed to get to that spot on a certain time, and Brian Thomas Jr. is slow off of the line of scrimmage. So, yeah. I predicted Tyson trade, new prediction, BTJ and 4th for Garrett Wilson. BTJ can't handle Trev's fastballs, and it's in his head. It's time to cut bait. Garrett Wilson is a Jag. Yeah, but Garrett Wilson is like at least from a fantasy football perspective, is like a top 5 wide receiver. I don't know why they would want to trade Garrett Wilson unless Garrett Wilson really wants out. I mean, if Garrett Wilson demands himself out, that's a maybe, but they kind of remind me of maybe like the 2020 Jags where, you know, they have some guys on there that could be some cornerstones, but they need to, they need to like flip the roster a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see. I think if New York is going to try to make trades, they will try to get young players or just draft picks in general. That's just my opinion. Cruzan says, would they trade him for a second? That, in my opinion, would be what I think the Jaguars would get for him. Is it worth it? I don't know. Like, I'm definitely not trading him for a 3rd round pick, but a second I think they would entertain. especially if he's not intangibly rich, especially if they don't think he's helping out the organization. That's just my opinion. But all right, guys, going to end this one here. Appreciate all that. And by the way, if you guys can, please drop a like for me. I would really appreciate that. I hope you guys really enjoy your Saturday. I'm going to do a call-in show tomorrow night at probably 8:30. So hopefully 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So hopefully you guys can join me there. I appreciate all you guys stopping in for this breaking news video. Kind of threw me off guard when I saw that. But with all that said, go Jags.